Today, you will learn how to use Gyro-to-Joystick on Steam. I will go over all of my settings and why I chose them. But before we start, you might want to consider not using Gyro-to-Joystick and using Gyro-to-Mouse instead. As you will see in this video, Gyro-to-Joystick has a lot of limitations like acceleration curves, dead zones, aim assist, and you will have to counter all of those things to properly make use of this feature. Older games, especially like BioShock, are just impossible to properly configure with Gyro-to-Joystick because the minimum joystick speed is just too high. You will try to do subtle, tiny adjustments, and the game will move way too fast for that to be possible. That said, Gyro-to-Joystick does have some legit uses. Like for example, maybe the game you're trying to play doesn't allow for gamepad and mouse inputs at the same time, and setting all that up would just be too time consuming and not worth the effort. One of my favorite examples of this is Resident Evil 5, where aiming with a mouse completely changes the aiming system, and using gyro to emulate a mouse doesn't work for multiplayer, so using Gyro-to-Joystick lets both players use gyro and is much easier to set up. So let's get started. First, we will need to open the controller configuration screen a lot. So if you are on PC, go to Steam, Settings, In-Game, and enable Use Big Picture Overlay when using a controller. That way, if you press the home button while inside a game, you will open this screen, and that will be important later. Once we get into the game, I will look for a few things. The first thing that I will look for is to increase the right stick sensitivity to the maximum value. I will do that because Gyro-to-Joystick speed will be limited by the maximum speed that the game allows. So if the game can go as fast as your movements, your bigger movements just won't register. Next, if possible, I will decrease the dead zones to 0. This will make gyro much more responsive, but if your cursor or camera is moving on its own, don't worry, I will show you how to fix that in just a sec. Next, if possible, I will set the stick acceleration to linear. That will make movements much more consistent. And lastly, if possible, I will disable aim assist. Using aim assist while using gyro is kind of like looking at a black hole eating away all of your inputs. It doesn't feel good. And trust me, you don't need it. Gyro aiming is precise enough. Moving over to Steam, press the home button and go to controller settings. Then click on Edit Layout. Here is where we will change most of the other settings. So let's start with the right stick. On the joystick tab, right here on right joystick behavior, I'll click on the gear icon, and here you can change the actual sensitivity that you will want while playing the game. And the most important part, on the dead zones, I will set the dead zone to custom, and I will increase the minimum output to something like 5. If your controller isn't in really good shape and your dead zones are bigger than this, it's fine, you can just increase this until the camera starts moving on its own. Also, I forgot to mention, but here you can even change the acceleration curve. And usually I like to leave the vertical sensitivity a bit lower than the horizontal sensitivity so I can confidently look left and right without looking up or down. Finally, let's activate gyro. Press the home button, go to controller settings, edit layout, and on the gyro tab, select Gyro-to-Joystick camera. Make sure to not use Gyro-to-Joystick deflection because that's for racing games. Once we set the gyro behavior to Gyro-to-Joystick camera, I will click on the gear icon, and first I will choose the gyro enable button. In this case, I want gyro to be enabled only when I press the ADS button, so that's L2. The button is set to hold to enable gyro, and if I use multiple buttons, I can choose if I have to press all of them or any of them. Then I will need to counter the stick dead zone. If you had the chance to set the in-game dead zone to 0, this will be much easier for you. Just set the minimum joystick output to 0%, which is the default by the way. But if you haven't had that chance, we will need to do a little bit of back and forth between the game and this configuration screen. Put the controller on a flat surface and maximize this value. You will notice the camera jittering and moving all over the place. To fix that, you will decrease the slider little by little until the jitter is gone. You will know once you got it right when the camera isn't jittering and really small movements are being registered. Lastly, we need to match the response axis style. Don't worry, this is a nerdy name for a very simple thing. You have two options, per axis and circular. You can think of this as the shape of the in-game dead zone. In some games, the right stick dead zone looks like this. This cross shape is the per axis style, so the camera will start to move diagonally only when you pass this threshold. Most modern games, however, use a circular dead zone, so moving the camera diagonally is much easier. If you're not sure what style the game is using, you can try pushing the right stick to one side and slowly rotating it up or down. If the camera starts to move diagonally immediately, then it's using the circular style. If not, then it's using the per axis style. By this point, we are already 80% there. You can try it for yourself. Gyro is probably feeling really good and responsive right now, but there are still some things we can do to make it even better, like countering acceleration curves to make gyro aiming much more consistent. You know, sticks aren't linear, in the sense that the camera speed will ramp up the further you push the right stick, and the shape of the ramp can vary widely from game to game. So if you can, set the in-game acceleration curve to linear. But if that isn't possible, you would just have to try different values, honestly. Decreasing the slider will make the acceleration curve more aggressive, and increasing the slider will make the acceleration curve more relaxed. After all of that, let's calibrate the gyro sensitivity so you can transfer your preferred sensitivity across every game. This process is a bit silly, but hear me out. First, on Steam, set the sensitivity to 1x. Then decrease gyro precision speed and gyro dead zone to 0, because we don't want any filters for this. Now go back to the game, activate gyro and rotate the controller 90 degrees. If the camera also moved 90 degrees, then gyro input speeds are correct. If they aren't, you can increase or decrease the maximum gyro input slider until you get it right. It doesn't have to be perfect, but close enough is good enough. There are two huge asterisks in this step, so pay attention. 1. Some games have an extra yaw feature. This means that when the stick is pushed 100%, the sensitivity is multiplied so you can do faster turns. This is terrible for gyro. So decrease the maximum joystick output to 90% or whatever point the extra yaw starts. You can test if the game uses the extra yaw feature by decreasing the analog stick maximum value on Steam and checking if the game speed is wildly different compared to 100%. If the game you're trying to play has a very slow aiming sensitivity, even when maxed out in-game, try enabling the angle catch-up feature. This will keep sending the right stick input until the game reaches the angle that you pointed at. This can feel like the game is lagging behind your inputs, because it is, but at the very least, you can do confident flicks knowing that your reticle will eventually get to the angle that you pointed at. So they updated this feature while I was editing this video, and now you can choose between two modes. One will start to count your movements to catch up only when gyro is enabled, and the other one will always be counting. So if you move and then you enable gyro, your reticle will actually end up where you want. I recommend using the always option. Just a heads up, activating this might require you to recalibrate the gyro input speeds. With all of that done, we can actually just leave all these sliders and values as they are and experiment with the gyro sensitivity, orientation, and so on. I like to set the gyro sensitivity to 3x to decrease the gyro dead zone to 0 and increase the gyro precision speed to 4. If I feel like my aim is super shaky when I press buttons, I will decrease the vertical sensitivity between 25 to 30%. Lastly, I will change the gyro orientation to player space. And that's about it. As you can see, I did some grind shot and tracking tests on aim labs and emulating the right stick and emulating a mouse, and the results are pretty close. It isn't super difficult to calibrate all of this stuff. It's just kind of annoying because there aren't really many precise values to work with, unlike with gyro to mouse. If you find this video useful, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to my Patreons, William, Orlando, Christopher Fox, Thena Oath, Easy, Roger Dogood, Ars Poetic, and RX Gazella.